Here it is, part 2 of this 2-part episode with the anxiety expert, Shane Murphy. We wrap all this up by diving into the complexities of mental health, discussing the balance between therapy and medication, the importance of emotional processing, and the societal stigma surrounding mental health treatment. We explore the current mental health crisis in Europe, the role of government in mental health care, and the need for accessible and diverse therapeutic options. The discussion emphasises the significance of self-awareness, grounding techniques, and the power of community support in fostering mental well-being. And a quick message to you listening. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave a rating and follow. It really helps the show grow and reach more people that we can help. And if you want to be a legend, you can also buy me a coffee. The link's in the description. No pressure. Well, maybe a little. Just buy me a coffee. Anyway, enough begging. Follow the show. This is TOMU. The open mic, unfiltered. Let's get fucking into it. If you see me on the train, then give me a round of applause because I'm sitting there being mindful. I'd say that's me trying to be probably manly still and not admit that I'm trying to do some...
Cameron, say there, be manly. Just say be manly.
Be manly. Not trying to be manly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's mental, isn't it, though? How in your profession, you're so observant and quick to pick up the words that I'm using, whereas me, it just becomes so... It's just natural, or it becomes something that isn't... I'm not even aware of the words I'm using. And my dad used to say it to me as well. My dad used to always pick up on words I would say, and if I said if, he'd be like, no, when, not if, when, because you're going to do it. Yeah. And it's just little things like that. It's impressive.
But I mean, it's the shoulds, the woulds, the coulds, all those sort of things are all future tense things, which are part of anxieties. And, you know, everything for me is all present tense words. And for me, stepping out of the try, as you said, like, I am a sensitive person who feels my feelings and emotions, and I am also a man. I am also able to do manly things. That's okay, like, you know, it's a vibrational thing. The more, you know, you were saying earlier on, how do we step into this? And it is those aspects of things, stepping out away from the try word and actually say, I'm doing it, and making a promise. You know, if someone asks you, would you mind doing that for me next week? And you go, I'll try and do it for you. Whereas for me, if I'm going to do it for you, I'm going to say, I'll do that for you. Now, if something goes wrong and I'm not able to do it, but that's okay. Something goes wrong, but I will do my best to do it because I made a promise that I would do it. Whereas if I say, I'll try and do it, and somebody actually rings me, oh, Shane, you were supposed to do that for me. Oh, yeah, I tried to do it, but something came up. It's a totally different energy. And to learn more about us and our feelings and emotions, we need to step into that present tense vocabulary and actually make those proper promises to ourselves that we're doing it. So, Shane, I'm going to try and free myself of anxiety. I'll say, no, you're not. You'll never free yourself of anxiety if you're going to say that. Never, ever, ever will you free yourself of anxiety if you try to do anything. If you say, I'm going to free myself from anxiety, and I might say, well, how are you going to do that? With your help, we will be free from anxiety. Okay, great. We will be free from anxiety. But we have to make that promise to ourselves. At the end of the day, it's only about us. So we have to step into that power. And it is a powerful place when you're in that present tense, in the now, right now, this very second, in now, and actually making those conversations and those promises to doing it. And that's it. And we are a society where we kind of go, well, what if I can't do it? What if I can't do that? What if I made a promise that I'm going to do that and I can't do it? Well, if by any chance, whatever you made a promise that you were able to do or not able to do, you then have to take consequences and actually ring the person up and say, you know, the way I promised I'd do that for you next week, I can't do it. And that's it. And then, of course, people are calling in their mind, oh, if I tell him I can't do it, he's going to get upset, he's going to get angry, he's going to just start the spiral, starts again and again and again. Whereas for me, I'm doing it. And if something comes up, I take responsibility, I ring the person up and I say, I promised I would, but I can't, but I will. You know? It's stepping into that power most powerful place you can step into is into the I am doing this, you know?
And
I know, I feel.
Sorry. And do you think anxiety comes from a place of people pleasing? Do you think a lot of people pleasers have anxiety?
Yeah. There's lots of different things. Like, it's not just people pleasing. It's primarily maybe a little bit. First, look, I can't put anxiety into one box because so many people come with so many different aspects to anxiety. Some people have anxiety and they don't worry about what people think, and they don't worry about people pleasing and stuff like that. They are caught up in a different type of anxiety where it's just anxious that they won't live up to how anybody else expects them. Most people with anxiety and most people in life don't like themselves.
Yeah.
They don't like themselves. I absolutely love myself. Absolutely love
But that's
myself.
seen as a bad thing, isn't it? That's seen as a bad thing if someone says, I love myself.
Exactly. Somebody is, oh, you're toxic, you're septic because you love yourself, and you know, you're one of those that loves themselves. But I mean, loving myself is not just, it's not the shell. This is what I call a shell. Our body, our human case is the shell. It's not about this. And yes, I love that as well. But I love the person I am inside. I love that if I say I'm doing something, I do something. I love the fact that I can express my feelings and emotions when I need to express them moments. I love that I can actually help to change people's lives. I love that about me. I love everything about me. I love my mind, body, soul, spirit, essence, everything about me. And that's what it's about. Like, you know, you see people that, oh, he loves himself because he likes his hair and he likes his nice clothes and all that sort of stuff. Don't care about that stuff. It's what's inside you need to love. And so many people don't like what's inside themselves. They hate what's inside themselves. And that's how we just have to be more honest. Tell it how it is and stop worrying about what everyone else out there. So sorry, that's a very long-winded answer to, you can't put anxiety into a box of it's all of these things.
Yeah.
Because it's so much more than that. It's so much more complex than that. There's so much going on. It's not as simple as, you know, that's why you were saying earlier on, like, I mean, one of the aspects, a lot of people talk to me and they come to me and they say to me, do you do cognitive behavior therapy? And they say, oh, I know that's supposed to be very good for anxiety. I go, no. Cognitive behavior therapy is the worst thing in the world for anxiety because it's all about following the rules and following this. And at the end of the day, anxiety is about when we're in anxiety and we control everything, we control our world, make sure our world is safe. The more control we bring in, the more anxious we get. The more anxious we get, the more control we bring in. So we can't bring people in to, oh, you have to do this by this time next week and you have to do that by this time next week. And God forbid, thought logs. That's what cognitive behavior therapy, oh, you have to write down your thought logs. Yeah, when you're caught up in spirals of anxiety and panic attacks, the last thing you want to do is take out a thought log and go, I need to write down my thoughts and my feelings. To learn how to sit with this. So cognitive behavior therapy, in my opinion, does not work for, and it is the big buzzword in the corporations because they're like, oh, 10 sessions of CBT and they're healed. No. It's not simple as that. Like,
I mean, I would lean towards agreeing with what you're saying in the sense of with CBT having the rules or the somewhat of structure, because like you say, if you're riddled with anxiety and you're at home and you've got other things that's on your mind, and then the next thing you said there, you got to get out your thought blog, and then you're thinking, oh, but I need to do it because if I don't do it, then I'm going to let them down, and then that's another anxiety string to add to your bow. And yeah, when does it stop? You know, so I would agree with you in that sense, absolutely.
I'm not saying that there isn't a place for CBT. I also have a qualification of advanced CBT, and I do bring CBT in. I do bring thought logs in to the therapy. But for the first month or two, I don't do anything. And, you know, I did a workshop there a couple of weeks ago on now I have a qualification to working with people with Parkinson's because their anxiety is in it. And they were talking as well that CBT doesn't work for Parkinson's at all. So it's not, I'm not unique in saying that cognitive behavior therapy. What I'm saying is, I have a qualification in CBT. I have qualification in so many different things that I just literally, when I'm working with a client, I bring it into it. A lecturer in college once said to me that it's just another quiver in your bow, so that you just have something else to take out of your bow and go, okay, I'll help you with this.
Yeah, it's like a toolbox, isn't it? A tradesman's toolbox. You use a spanner for a certain thing, you use a screwdriver for another. So it's
100%. Like, so CBT on its own for anxiety doesn't necessarily work. It works for maybe depression. It's quite good for depression and stuff like that. But as a standalone, I'm not sure if just following that rules is the way to go.
From our sort of brief discussions before we spoke today, you're not so pro medication, or you think there's too much medication? Was that?
I think it's too much medication. Nowadays, people go into a doctor, and you can only talk about Ireland at the moment. They go into a doctor, they look, I'm struggling with this. And bear in mind, first thing I'll say is, a doctor cannot diagnose you with anxiety or depression or anything like that. The only person that can officially diagnose you with any of those is a psychologist. So you come into a doctor and you say, I'm struggling with this, 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 and this. He's got a list and he goes, oh, you've got anxiety? And he goes, you start on surgery, you start on this medication.
Yeah.
And it used to be before that people would come in and say, I'm struggling with all this. And they go, oh, you should go to therapy. And if you're not feeling better in 2 to 3 months, you come back to me and we look at medication. I'm not saying medication is a no-no, because I do understand that for some people, medication works. But the problem is people are being left on medication and only doing the work on medication. Because at the end of the day, what medication is doing is it's suppressing your feelings and emotions so you don't feel as overwhelmed. So you can't tell me that an anxiety tablet or a depression tablet or any other tablet only knows to tackle the anxiety feeling and everything else is okay. So it suppresses your feelings and emotions in a short-term fix, 2 to 3 months. That's fine for some people that are in it, but you need to come off it. One of the things that people don't realize, if you go on an anti-anxiety tablet and you go on it for 3 months, it takes you 3 months to come off it. So there's no short-term fix with an anxiety tablet. It takes a month to 6 weeks for it to kick in. Then you stay on it for another 6 weeks, and then it takes you 3 months to come off it. So you're actually, what's supposed to be a short-term fix is actually 6 months minimum that you'll be on it once you start on it to actually get you into that regulation. So if you're only doing that, you're actually feeling better after maybe 2 to 3 weeks. You're feeling a little bit steadier. You're not feeling as anxious. You're not getting as overwhelmed. And you're going, oh, I feel better. And then you're going, sure, I'll stay on this. It's like what you said to me earlier on. There's no quick fix. Well, technically speaking, there is staying on a tablet. But at the end of the day, all the tablet is doing is suppressing. People have to then start increasing their level of medication, has to keep on going up because they're not processing what they need to process. So if someone is on an anti-anxiety drug or a depression drug or whatever, they should be going to therapy at the same time so that they can learn their feelings and emotions. I mean, but all you're learning at the time is the practical aspects. This is what this feeling feels like, this is what this feeling's with, because they can't feel it, you know? And then when they've understood how to feel their feelings and emotions, they come off the medication and then we work with how it feels in the body for them. But the problem is the longer they're on this medication, the worse it gets. I had a client years ago, 22 years on an anti-anxiety tablet. It took us 2 years to regulate his feelings and emotions after he came off the drug. Because I don't know if you've ever been on anti-anxiety tablets or anything like that.
No.
When you come off them, you're so deregulated with your feelings and emotions because you're suppressing everything. So everything has been suppressed down inside you, so that when you come off it, it's like what you were talking there about the last year, you were crying a lot. You'll be crying, you don't know why. I've had people who are on anti-anxiety drugs whose parents have died and they don't cry, they don't get upset. They come off the drugs and they're bawling, they don't know why. So I'm not saying that there isn't a place for them in society. What I'm saying is the way they're being done and used at the moment is that a lot of the medical society believe that we can medicate our way out of mental health. In Ireland, there's more money being pushed on the medicine side of things than there is in the psychotherapy type of things. You know, that's what the aspect of what I actually see. Yeah. Is that most medication is there as a temporary fix. It's not there to keep you on it forever. You learn the practical tools to be able to regulate yourself, and then you don't need the drugs. God didn't put us on this planet to stay on medication for everything for the rest of our lives. He gave us the tools within ourselves, but somewhere along the lines, in our childhood, in our 20s, in our 30s, we did not learn how to express, or we had traumas, or whatever goes wrong in life. You know, it's small things go wrong for people in their lives, and it building up in them, and we just learn to express it. We learn to live our lives. We learn to live our lives. My life, like me, no medication. I don't even take headache tablets. Sorry, that's a very long.
No, it's all right. Answer. Passionate, so it's fine. It's your podcast. I'm just here to listen.
Well, you're here to act.
Yeah. So that would lead me on to ask you this question, because you'd have some people out there that would hear what you're saying, and then they might flip it and say, well, of course you don't want people medicated, because if people are medicated, then they don't need a therapist. So people might look at it as in it's taking away from you. So that's why you're not so for it. Do you know what I mean?
Cameron, my ultimate goal, believe it or not, my ultimate goal is to actually help people to free themselves from whatever is going on for them. It's not about the financial aspect of things. Yes, I believe that there should be an exchange of energy. That's what money is all about, that exchange of energy, that the exchange of, you've done a service for me, I give you money, I take it back. It's about that exchange of energy. So my ultimate goal isn't to keep clients in therapy for the rest of their life. I don't believe in that. I believe that you learn the tools and stuff like that you need to do from me, and then you go off into the world and you do it. And I hope I never see you ever again. I hope you come to me for therapy, you get yourself sorted, and you're able to get out into the world. And that's my ultimate goal. But I mean, you could also argue that when you're on medication and you're paying whatever, 50, 60 euros a month, and you have to be on that for the rest of your life, I'm saying you come to therapy to me for a couple of months and you learn to not be on it, so you're not on it for the rest of your life. So, sorry, I'll actually, Cameron, I just say bullshit on that, because if you want to stay on medication for the rest of your life and you pay whatever, it might not be 50, 60, I don't know how much it costs. Even if it's 10, let's just say it's 10 a month for the rest of your life, that's 120 euros a year. Oh, you know, over 10 years, that's 1,200. And you can do the maths on it after that to stay on it overall. And even outside of the financial aspect of it, because it is a cheaper way than coming to me and paying 80 euros a session, it is a cheaper option to do that. But the long-term effects of what anti-anxiety or depression or any medication, what they have, the long-term effect that they have in our body. And one of the things you'll notice, and I'll only talk about anti-anxiety tablets, is people start on this one, and then they start getting increased and increased, and then eventually it doesn't work anymore. So then you have to go on a different one. You know, so we can't say that it doesn't have a physical effect on them. Some of those drugs out there have side effects on men, where they have erectional dysfunction, a few other different ones that actually come up for people. You know, upset stomach, weight gain, you know, digestive issues, headaches, achy in the body. So there are side effects for any long-term medication that we have to use in life. So for anyone out there that's actually just saying, well, Shane, you prefer people to go to therapy than being on drugs, I prefer that you actually live the best life that you possibly can, and that you feel good about yourself all the time. That's my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to help people to live their life as free as you can. Get one shot at this life. You should live it fantastically, amazingly, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
No.
That's the way you should be living your life.
Was it a spoonful of sugar?
Spoonful of sugar. You know?
No, I do agree with you, Shane. And I just try. I put myself in the position with maybe other people who aren't financially, you know, to come to you, like you said there, it does cost you more, but for a long-term effectiveness to be able to deal with yourself, it's a better option. But if you're in a position where you haven't got that money and it's cheaper for you to live paycheck by paycheck and you can spend that 10, 20 euros on medication, do you think that sometimes it's not necessarily people don't want the therapy, it's they can't afford the therapy? And I'm not saying that's your fault. I'm just saying that
Cameron, I guarantee you those people are not just spending money on medication. They're spending money on alcohol as well. They're spending money on processed food. You know, the money is there for it, like, you know what I mean? Because it's not just the tablet, that the drug, the 10 or whatever, the 20 euros that they're spending on it. There's other aspects to their life that they're actually spending money on, because they're caught in that cycle of, I'm feeling this way, I need to eat chocolate. I'm feeling this way, so I need to have some alcohol. And I guarantee they're spending well in excess of that.
Cigarettes.
80 and cigarettes, exactly. Like, I mean, in Ireland, cigarettes about 20 euros a box at the moment. Like, you know what I mean? In Ireland, they're spending money on cigarettes. They're spending money on alcohol. They're spending money on whatever, a bit of cannabis or whatever else that they're smoking as well, like, to get away from that. So it's never just the one thing. The medication on its own doesn't work. There's other things that they have to do to think that they're actually feeling better in the long run. I genuinely would love if therapy was free. I'd love if I could afford to not charge people. I think the government have a big thing to play in it, where, in the HSE in Ireland, there's no psychotherapist directly employed by the HSE in Ireland.
Okay.
That's on them. They don't open to the possibility that there is a chance that we could actually look at an alternative way. And the alternative way is a cheaper way, in my opinion. So if someone comes to me and say the HSE pay for the therapy and stuff like that, they come to me for 10 to 12 sessions. That's it. But if you look at people who are unemployed and stuff like that, they have a medical card. They're getting the drugs on the medical card and they're on it for life. Or they could come to me for 10 to 12 sessions and not be on any medication for life and be free. They're not looking long term, they're looking at short term. They're looking at now, but how can we fix it now? And they're not looking at the long term. So people be on medication for the rest of their life and they're going, okay, but at least they're not struggling for mental health. All we're doing is kicking it down along the line.
Yeah.
We're just kicking it down along the line. We don't have to deal with it now, but in 5 years' time we'll have to deal with it. And 5 years' time, by the way, is happening now. COVID, we're only now starting to see the effects of what COVID caused on people's mental health. So 5 years ago, they kicked it down along the line. We're now in the stage where mental health is through the roof everywhere. So you can't kick it down along the line anymore. Something has to be done.
Yeah. Well, no.
You and I, Cameron, are not going to solve that in this podcast.
No, I don't think me and you alone will be able to solve that in the time we have here on this earth. But I do agree with you, because I was that person, where I was struggling and I still went and spent, I don't know how much money on cannabis or alcohol or other forms of escapism. And I could have, and I was told by many people, well, if you stop doing that, you'll be able to afford some therapy sessions. But to me, that's not as enjoyable as going out and getting blackout drunk with my friends. So I'm going to continue doing this for a while. So I don't disagree with you. I believe that people do have the money if they want to go to therapy. And I also agree with you that I believe therapy is better long term. I've been on a course of medication just for my ADHD, which I found out that I was diagnosed when I went for help with my addiction problems. But I'm also in a course of therapy sessions with a psychologist and a psychiatrist, so I see them every week. So I'm getting my medication, but I'm also getting tools on how to deal with myself, because they don't want me to be on medication forever. They want me to just, right now, the medication, if I hadn't had my medication now, I wouldn't be sat here with you today, Shane. I don't know where I'd be or what I'd be doing. So it's helped me progress, but I also understand it's not something I want to be on maybe necessarily forever. So I need to figure out a way of how to find myself again in that, And
Cameron, that's the right way. That's the only message. I'm not. I was about to say try there. I'm not saying that to people out there not to do medication. I'm saying that yes, medication has its purpose. It has its reason for it. But don't just say I'm on medication and that's it, and forget about it. I don't have to deal with anything else. All I'm saying is, if you're on medication, get other help and support so that you won't be on medication for the rest of your life. Regardless of how good you feel at the moment, and you're feeling, oh, this is brilliant, I feel the most calmest and I feel the best I've ever felt in my life, that's the time you need to, as I said to you, I don't love clients coming into me in crisis. I want them to come to me when they're not in crisis, so I can actually help them faster to actually free themselves from whatever they're struggling with. So I'm not by any means on here saying, don't take medication, it's evil. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that understand that if you're on medication, you should also be doing something to work on the why. Why did I get anxiety? Why did I get depression? Why do I struggle with, okay, I have ADHD, that's different, but I'm only talking about, anxiety, depression, OCD, You know, all those sort of things. The why am I struggling? Why? What do I not know about myself? What do I want to learn about myself? And at the end of the day, I might be anxiety free at the moment, but I'm always working on myself. I love working on myself. Look forward to, after this podcast, sitting down in front of the fire, a good book read to read and stuff like that. As I said, I don't have a television, so I'm not going to watch television. I'm going to sit in by a fire. And people say to me, I said it already, what do you do with your life? I sit down, read a book, I sit with myself, I don't read fiction, so I read a good book, and I'm like, oh yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, that's coming up. Oh yeah, I never thought about that. Or do a bit of journaling and do a bit of writing and stuff like that. That's how I work. That's a Friday night.
Yeah, rock and roll.
20 years ago, we all go in the home, we go drink, have fun, like, you know. Whereas now, light the fire, sit down, write. I'm definitely something like my, you know, older person.
I look at myself these days as well, and at the moment, you know, Friday night I'll have myself a nice herbal tea of some sort and a magnesium tablet, and I'm getting ready for bed, and I'm thinking, what happened to me? Where's that guy gone from 5 years ago or 10 years ago? Yeah, exactly.
Wasting our time in a pub on a Friday night and a Saturday night, dying on a Sunday, you know,
repeat,
starting a cycle of work, then Monday to Friday, back into the pub again, because party central. Whereas you'd prefer now to have a herbal tea and, as you said, your magnesium and just sit down and, you know, whatever, like, you know, on a Friday night.
Tragic, but also I do enjoy it. It's much better. Realise that the weekends are quite long when you're not hungover or drinking alcohol. That was the first thing I noticed, that you can get a lot done.
Well, what is long? I have 24 hours in a day. You have 24 hours in a day. Everybody listening
feel
to this
longer.
24 hours in a day.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, when you live in the present moment like I do, you know, I mean, I talk on here about being a psychotherapist, but I do lots more other things in life, a lot of things. And a lot of people say to me, how do you get all that done in one day or even in 1 week, Shane? That's a huge amount of stuff. And I say, well, on average, most people sleep 7 to 8 hours. That leaves 16 hours in a day. What could you do with 16 hours if you're living in the present tense, you're not overthinking and caught up in your mind where, no
Netflix.
And you're only open. And you're literally, Netflix. But again, I don't have a television, so I'm not wasting 8-10 hours on a series, binging on the new Doctor Strange or whatever series is after coming out or whatever. Stranger Things, that's right. Or binging on the next Stranger Things and wasting 8 to 10 hours. I get a lot done in a day by being present. And now, don't get me wrong, folks. I used to watch television. I used to get caught up. Actually, COVID was the best thing that happened to me because I was binging on it and I was going, I think I saw every single program or episode on Netflix. And I eventually went, there's a world out there. What am I doing out here? And I literally took the television and I put it in a corner and I went, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah. Kind of like a guy with a cigarette. Put the cigarette down. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm done. Yeah, what am I doing?
So, television is just a massive distraction in people's world, you know. And again, you know, if we had any theme in this session, is to take the distractions out of your life and just learn to sit with your feelings and emotions. And folks, you don't even have to come to a therapist to figure out what's going on for you. You could actually do what Cameron said there. You could actually stop, become aware of yourself, become aware of what feelings and emotions are coming up, and figure you out.
Yeah, because I think you said it perfectly just before as well, that the medication might take you so far or it might make you feel good in those moments. But as soon as you don't have that, or if that gets taken away from you, there's an underlying reason as to why you are where you are and how you feel with the anxiety or the depression. So without addressing that and working through that, you're never going to be free of it or clear of it. And you don't want to have necessarily medication as something that, again, if it's not alcohol or drugs or like say cannabis or anything else, then the medication is still doing the same job as what those other vices were doing for you. You're still not working through the problem or the situation. You're masking it still. So I think it is important to take the medication to get you started. But like you said there, I think it is important that therapy or speaking to someone with experience or expertise in that area will take you further than medication will long term for yourself.
Yeah. You said it yourself. You said it there, like, you know, the medication is just a legal way of actually just not dealing with your feelings.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's a legal way a way that's acceptable by society. It's also a way of hiding your anxiety, hiding your depression, because you're on a medication for it, so nobody knows about it. You know, it's another aspect in mental health, especially in Ireland. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that they go to therapy.
Yeah.
I would say even if I looked at about 1,000 clients that I've worked with, I'd say about 700 of them have never told anybody they ever went to therapy.
Yes, that's mad to me. Yeah.
You know? And in Ireland, it's just such a taboo subject they can't talk about and go to therapy. Whereas in America, if you don't go to therapy, you're weird.
You don't have a shrink, then there's something wrong with you. Yeah.
Or wrong with you if you don't go to therapy. And I would love, okay, maybe that it's a bit extreme in America, but if we could find somewhere in the middle where people got more comfortable with actually saying, I'm going to a therapist, and someone might say, well, what's wrong with you? But if you're going to a doctor, they don't say, what's wrong with you? If you're going to a chiropractor, they don't say, what's wrong with you? Oh, it's around tobacco, you need to get that fixed. You're going to a doctor, oh, right, you got a flu, you got whatever, you need to get that fixed. Whereas you're going to a psychotherapist or a counselor or someone to do with your mental health, go, oh, what's wrong with you? Are you broken? Do you have a nervous breakdown? What's going on in your life, you know? Oh, are you a weirdo? Do I need to scare you? Do I need to scare you? You're going to attack me?
Yeah, are you crazy? You know? Yeah, what level of crazy are you? Yeah.
And sometimes people actually just come to me for therapy and they don't even actually have anything majorly wrong. They just want to express themselves. They have no one else expressing themselves in their life. They live on their own, they have no one around them, and they want to be able to come in and express what's going on for them in their world without worrying that it's going to upset me, or also not worrying that I know someone that they know and I'm going to tell them, because there's a complete secrecy. So just coming in and I have some clients that just vent about their life. And that's it. They come into me, every week, or some might be every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, because they've no one else in their life to vent about. So there's nothing wrong with them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them, other than that they don't have the space and they don't have the people around them so that they can express their feelings and emotions in a safe environment.
No, absolutely. And that's that's one of the things I enjoyed about and still enjoy about my therapy sessions is I can talk to my therapist and be open and honest and, like you say, vent or express myself with no fear of repercussions or judgment or upsetting someone or someone else finding out. And that in itself was a small sense of freedom for me to be able to, okay, well, I'm not being judged now for feeling how I'm feeling or saying what I feel. And this is maybe one of the first times in a while that it has sort of been unconditional in the sense of acceptance. He's not judging me. No one's judging me here. I can say what I want and just get it off my chest. And then I always feel lighter after I've been to a therapy session. Even if I'm in the worst mood in the morning, by the time I've had that session and I leave, I feel 100 times better. I feel like everything's sort of gone and I can see, think and feel again. So therapy for me has been a game changer. And I was always a bit hesitant with therapy previously in the past when I've been, because I think it's also about finding the right therapist or what works for you. And now I would always encourage therapy to anyone who asks me, how would you suggest I work through myself therapy? First thing, go to therapy.
Yeah, but you hit the nail on the head there about an aspect that people don't realize is that I'm a human being, they're a human being. They might not like me, and I'm okay with that. And if they come for one session and then they don't, I remember I actually went to my second therapist I ever went to, and I remember I didn't like him. He had a lisp, and I couldn't half hear what he was saying, and I actually didn't enjoy the therapy session. But I stayed in therapy because I was worried that I was going to upset my therapist. Whereas he didn't give a shit. I now know that I don't care. I don't take it personally if somebody doesn't like me for whatever reason. Because one of the great things about us human beings is we don't like everybody. So I actually didn't like him for some reason. So I went to paid therapy every week, go in, not get anything out of it, because I just literally be so caught up in the fact that he has a lisp and so much about the fact that I actually didn't like him that I didn't get anything. I used to just tread water with what I was expressing to eventually where I do what a lot of people do these days. And I wouldn't have had this terminology back then, but I ghosted,
Yeah.
And I get that all the time from clients. I constantly get clients who come to me for 1 or 2 sessions and then I never hear or see from them. I send them a few texts or they don't turn for their session. It's frustrating. But at the end of the day, and I always say in the first session for the clients, I actually say, look, if you don't like me, that's okay. If you don't like me, you move on to the next therapist and that's okay. But I would prefer if you would have you'd actually be able to actually say to me, not that you don't like me, but Shane, I've decided to start with another therapist or something along those lines. You could say you don't like me as well, by the way. I'm actually okay. I don't take anything for it. But we seem to think that we go to a therapist, I have to stay with that therapist forever. But it's the same as a cup of coffee. You don't like the same coffee from the same type of coffee shops all the time. You don't like you like a certain type of car. Like you don't if you like Mercedes Benz and you sit into I don't want to insult the type of car, but say sit into a Volkswagen, you don't like a Volkswagen. You're not going to stay driving the Volkswagen when you like a Mercedes Benz. It's the same with therapy. We're all different. We're all completely different, and all our different styles. My style is very unique and very different, and most people want to go in and just get the traditional therapy. No, I do. If you come into me for therapy, I tell you what I do. I tell you, if you want something else, that's not me. This is who I am. Most people go, oh, I like that, because I struggle to talk and you talk more. But if you don't like me, move on. Don't stay with a therapist if you don't get on with them, because some people, they might go through 5 or 6 therapists, but they go, actually, I like him. I get on with him. I'm going to work with him, because you have to have that two-way aspect of things.
You need that rapport.
You do. You need it 100%.
Yeah.
You know, and I am the way I am, and who I am, and who I am in life is who I am, and I'm not going to change that for anyone. So you either like me or you don't like me. If you don't like me, I'm not going to change.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
If you like me, I'm not going to change either. It's not going to make any difference to me in my work. You know, if you don't like me, I'm not going to become a different therapist. You know?
Yeah, you are the therapist. You are the therapist.
I am the therapist I am, and that's it.
And I've got one last question for you, Shane, if that's all right. Okay. The situation, I don't know what it's like in Ireland, but with mental health and getting the help within, say, the public sector, do you think there needs to be more done in that environment, in that sense? Do you think there should be more avenues for people to get help? Because I know in the UK and here in Denmark, where I am, some of the waiting lists for, say, ADHD or autism diagnosis, or even just for mental health screenings, can be months or years unless you go private.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm looking at it and thinking that there's like a mental health sort of, is it an epidemic? That
yeah, we're in the new pandemic of mental health. I heard the other day that there's a child waiting in the service to 13 years to be assessed at the moment. Yeah. It's very crisis. The only way you can go is private, as you said. I constantly have people coming to me and saying, do you do low cost counselling and all that? And I do it for a few clients, but I can't afford to do it for everyone. And that's where we're at the moment, where privately there's a 2 to 3 year waiting list in Ireland to get assessed to go for therapy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
To get it, and to get a diagnosis for ADHD or any of those as an adult, you know, you're talking 3 to 4 years if you go privately. If you go publicly. Privately, you're still waiting nearly a year privately, because they're so inundated, and privately costs a lot of money, and a lot of people can't afford that. So to answer your question, yeah, we're in a mental health crisis at this very moment in time. It's happening now. It's not happening away. It's happening at this moment. In Ireland, it's very hard to get the suicide rates. Very hard to get those numbers and those percentages. I believe it's very hard to get it for a reason, because the government suddenly know we're in trouble here, but we don't want people to know we're in trouble here, you know? So, and again, it's what I said to you earlier on. In the HSE in Ireland, there are no psychotherapists employed directly. They're only looking at medicating. And look, they're probably looking at it, this is a faster thing to medicate people as fast as you possibly can. While they're on waiting list, let's get them on medication, because we can't get them to therapy. But then people feel better, and then they take themselves off the list and say, I'm okay now, I'm okay being on medication. And then, of course, they're getting medication for free. You know, and then the HSE and the doctors and stuff like that, they don't have options, but to, like, someone might come into them and they're on social welfare at 220 euros a week, and they're going, well, they're not going to be able to afford a therapist, so they put them on medication. So, you know, we're at crisis. We're in serious trouble in all the countries. I think most of Europe, anyhow, as far as mental health is concerned, like, you know, because we're not getting to them fast enough. It's also not seen as something that we need to get to. Like, I mean, I don't know, I saw a statistic there the other day that in A&E in Ireland, 30% of the people that are coming in for A&E are coming in for mental health problems. So they come in, they assess that they have mental health problems, and they turn around and send them back out the door.
That's mental. Yeah.
You know? So the days of talking about the fact that we're heading for a crisis are over. We're in crisis. fact that you're seeing it in Denmark proves that it's not just a Irish thing. The UK, the system in the NHS in the UK is just a million times worse than we were. Whereas the NHS at one stage was seen as being the pillar, the one to look up to as far as it, but they're crumbling as well as far as mental health is concerned. Like, so I know that your question was actually technically speaking a very easy answer, which was yes.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have the answers here. I'm only one person. I can only do what I can do, and I can do the best I possibly can with it. The answer is to invest more money in mental health. Stop looking at how to medicate it. Find different ways. And I mean, another thing I'd like to mention, it's not just counselling isn't the only answer. There's so many other ways. You know, I'm involved with a group here that I'm one of the founders of. It's called Y'all Talks. It's about raising awareness around mental health. We have an event once a year in August. And what we do is at this event, we have lots of different, we suggest therapy, but we also have lots of different modalities of different ways to actually help you to step in, to free yourself of your mental health. Laughing yoga, Tai Chi, you know, energy healing. Ways of craniosacral is very good for releasing traumas and stuff that are trapped in the body. Kinesiology. All these alternative treatments are out there to help. I'm not saying that therapy is the only way. There are so many different ways that people can actually free themselves. But again, the government and society they're so tunnel vision. That's the only way that they actually look at it. Medical model is all they see. That they're not willing to look at so many different modalities, so many different, you know, Gabor Mate, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza all talk about that, how we hold it in our body. I do a lot of fascia release, you know, that's a great way for actually releasing the traumas that are actually trapped in your body. Kinesiology I work with, you know, osteopaths I work with. So many different things I work with to help me to actually free myself from it. So it's not just therapy and that's the only way. There's so many different ways that we can actually do and actually free ourselves from it. So if therapy is not for you, there are other things you can do. Other than medication, therapy are not the only two ways. There's loads of modalities out there to help us free ourselves from this. If you go to a therapist and you go, no, this is not for me, have a look, see what else is out there. Learn the different ways. As I say, I've learned, I don't go into a therapist anymore, but I learn different ways to actually help me with my emotional release, learning how to actually do it. I talk to different types of people and stuff like that. And that's how and obviously doing podcasts like this where I can like to express myself. As you can see, there is, I was going to say there's no filter. There isn't, because I'm just going from here.
I appreciate it.
You know, it's truth and honesty, and that's the only place I can go from. You know?
Absolutely. But it begs the question though, why is the government so blinded or tunnel visioned on medication alone, rather than like you do in your spare time, raise awareness and do programs? Even I mean, I don't know what's like in the hospitals there. Do they have leaflets for alternative ways of your mental health?
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's small things like that. And why are they so refusive? Why do they
they're all looking for the quick fix. If you think of governments, you think of any government you have in place, most governments are only in for 5 years. So they only care about their 5-year term of actually doing it. And that's why the whole government structures need to be changed around where, even if you look at over here, we have the Minister for Mental Health. Even in the government term that we've had here so far, we've had 2 different ministers for mental health. And when a new minister comes in, they have a new vision of what they want to do, and they want to fix, and they want to be seen, I did this, and look how fantastic I did this. Ego, a lot of ego coming in. So the problem is that each new government comes in, has an idea and a thought to do it. The government that's in place then is saying, what's the short-term fix? Which is the one now that when I leave, people go, well done, you did a great job. The long-term one is, we get people into programs. We get people into programs with their mental health. We set up group work. We get therapists in. And we do that. But that might not happen within their term of their 5 years. So they're not going to do it.
No, it's a nail on the head there. It's the stats, isn't it? It's in the 5 years, the graph went up or it went down. So that's where they're judged on, not how is it going to be for the next person taking over.
That's not long-term. That's not looking at 10 years down the line. They don't care about 10 years down the line. They won't be in power, so they don't care. And if they do happen to be in power and they get brought in for the second time, they're still not looking long term, you know?
Absolutely.
So something has to change as far as the way the governments of the world look at mental health, look at certain things, they need to get out of their ego and actually do what they say they were going to do when they actually were after knocking on your door and actually saying, oh yeah, I'll definitely do something with mental health. I'll put this reform in, I'll put this reform in. Then they get into power and they'd go, nah, not going to bother doing that. You know? Oh yeah, we will invest millions into mental health. Oh yeah, Shane, I hear what you're coming from. You know, oh, counseling, psychotherapy is definitely the way to do it. They get into power. Doesn't happen. They don't care. They're in power.
Yeah.
I can't change that. They're in power. All I can do the next time they come around go, bullshit, you know, you said you'd do something about it. Definitely do something about it this time, I promise you.
Yeah.
They're all the same, singing from the same hymn page. They're all singing from short-term fixes, and that's the way they look.
It's like I say, it's the same coin, different face. That's all it is.
Yeah, 100%. They're just following the same narrative. No matter who goes into power, they follow the same narrative. They get into power, and they literally go, okay, this worked for this government, short-term. No bigger thinking, no outside thinking, no, you know, set communities. Like, there's so much more than just therapy. There's so much group work. I used to do group work before where people used to work as groups. They used to absolutely love other people with anxiety were inside the same group. You don't have an anxiety support group. You have addiction. You have so many other ones. You don't have anxiety support group, depression support group. We can do all that. There's actually ways of actually doing this for the government that actually are not expensive. Putting some sort of programs in place. Bits, don't get me wrong, there are bits and pieces of stuff, but there's no joined up thinking,
no,
you know?
It's all just, like you say, short term and the figures, stats.
Short-term stats, figures. I want to be able to say when my term is over that I can actually look back on it and say, statistically speaking, I actually helped mental health by this amount because there's less people coming in that are struggling with mental health because they're on medication, so they're not actually looking for mental health supports anymore. So now the statistics show that there's less people in the system looking for mental health because they're on medication. So you're just kicking it down along the line. So the next government comes in, suddenly the stats for mental health goes up because the people that were on medication are struggling again, you know?
No, absolutely.
So that's my problem. That's not my problem. I don't care. Even though I'm a human being, they're a human being, I should care about the other human being. We don't. And again, I could argue, if you're on medication, you're suppressing your feelings and emotions, so you actually don't really feel the same amount of empathy that you should feel.
Yeah.
So disconnection from empathy and disconnection from feelings and emotions makes us become very robotic.
Yeah.
You know, AI makes us more human. He's more human than human beings these days.
But an AI is not a therapist. Don't.
No.
Don't.
Right?
Yeah, I know.
The amount of people that I know talk to ChatGPT and ask them about how I'm feeling and all that sort of stuff. Whereas AI has a habit of lying.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a yes man.
I've used AI and I've gone and put together a blog and I say, well, where did you get those statistics for that? And they go, oh, you're right for calling me out in that, Shane. I lied. I made it up.
Yeah.
Do you think if it can make up statistics, it doesn't make up how it's actually helping you, what you actually think about it? What was it? I saw an article a couple of years ago where a young man committed suicide because AI actually told him that committing suicide would actually be a better option than what he's actually doing.
That's insane. Yeah.
I saw that in America, 10%, and I mean, you know how big America is, 10% of the people are using these AI therapists now. So you go online, you go on like a video call, you go on with an AI therapist, and you work with them. But at the end of the day, AI will never replace empathy.
It's a robot.
It will never replace that human connection.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I said. Because I know someone who was living by ChatGPT for giving them advice on life and how they're feeling and how they should approach stuff. And I said, a robot can't tell you how you should be feeling. Like, a robot doesn't understand that. Maybe not now anyway. Maybe in a few hundred years. But right now, you should not be taking life advice from a robot. Please stop.
No. It doesn't get it empathically, even though it sounds like it's doing it empathically. And I know there's a version of ChatGPT now where it has the voice and you can communicate by voice. But at the end of the day, it can logically, it's like Spock in Star Trek, it can logically figure out feelings and emotions, but it doesn't feel it. And it will never, I don't know how we can ever get to the stage where AI would feel its feelings and emotions. It will always be logical, like, you know? Its feelings come from a part of us that scientists still don't know how the soul works. So after hundreds of years of research and looking into it and even trying to find the soul, because they don't know where the soul is. They haven't been able to figure it out within the human body. So if scientists can't figure it out, AI definitely can't figure it out. So AI will never have a soul.
Yeah, no, I get you. And I could go down a much deeper hole with you with the soul and finding that out, but with the time and everything, I do want to ask you though, because I'm curious. What is kinesis, and what was the other one you said?
Kinesiology, cranial sacral. Yeah. Okay.
There was another one you said as well.
Yoga, Tai Chi.
What's kinesios?
Tai Qigong is about the movement of the body, the movement of energy and emotions around the body. I've done Tai Chi Qigong now 3 years. I find it, I do it every week. I find it usually beneficial. I find it just really helps me with my emotions and my feelings. So it's about energy. We could go down another podcast just about this subject alone. We can
I'll have you back anyway, Shane. That's for sure. If you will come back.
Yeah, kinesiology. Look, anybody can Google kinesiology, cranial sacral, because we could go down another rabbit hole of learning. It's about kinesiology is about releasing the emotions that are trapped in our body, the physical aspect of the ones that are trapped in our body. Because we're very naive to think that it's all just feelings and emotions. We have a trauma in our body. We store it in our body. We hold it in our tissue. Fascia release is
That's
probably
the
what
one.
it's
Yes.
So the fascia is so we have a skin and we have the bones. So in between the skin and the bones is this web that's all over our body, that's everywhere around our whole body, and everything is stored in there. That's the memory, the skin of the memory that's actually held in there. So if you have a trauma, even if you have, say, you break your hand, you know, if you don't get the fascia released where it's held inside in it, it's actually, you hold it on. So people get sore wrists and stuff like that. It's the same with traumas that actually happen to us. When we get a trauma that actually happens, we hold it in the tissue within our body.
Okay.
Bruce Lipton would talk an awful lot. I think Bruce Lipton's absolutely amazing. I read all these books. I met him last year as well. Amazing man. But he talks a lot about that, and he's a scientist. So I always say, when we have people like Bruce Lipton, Gabor Mate, Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, all these people that are scientists that actually talk about this, people in the Western Hemisphere only believe it if it can be proven scientifically. We don't believe it, like, you know, if you were living in Thailand and the Buddha said, this is a fact, that you would go, I believe you. Whereas over here, if the Buddha says, this is a fact, you'll say, well, prove it.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm that guy, or have been that guy. I have been that guy. You know, I didn't believe in meditation. I thought that was woo-woo and hocus pocus, and now I do it, and I've seen a dramatic increase in my emotional regulation, or my window of tolerance has gone wider, and it's been hugely beneficial. And I thought it was all, hoo-hoo, woo-woo.
Yeah, and it's the same. You know, as I said, I could go down another rabbit hole explaining kinesiology. I can do the same with cranial sacral. I can do the same with fascia release and all that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm not qualified in any of these. So maybe if you wanted to know more about this, get a kinesiologist on.
I'm gonna find one
about this. I find you one. I have a brilliant girl that would love to come on a podcast like this and talk about what kinesiology is and how it gets on. And interestingly, her name is Sharon Murphy. So no relation.
Okay, another Murphy.
That I know. It's just another aspect. And look, the spirit that we have, like, again, another part of us, that the soul, the spirit that can't be explained. But we must hold on to stuff within that. My therapy is mind, body, soul, and spirit.
Yeah.
It's not just about the one thing, the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit. But we hold on to these things there, and we have to learn other ways to release that, because just the mind isn't going to just release that aspect of things on its own. And as you say, most people find that wishy-washy, weird, spiritual, all that, and holy baloney, shite. Like, I don't. I believe in it. And not only do I believe in it, it works for me. And it works for so many other people. Like,
no, definitely. My eyes are being opened more to alternative therapies that I used to think was nonsense. So I was a skeptic, now I'm a bit more of a believer. Definitely.
Yeah, well, we have to call it complementary therapy, which is a great name, rather than alternative therapy.
Complementary therapy.
So, yeah. I would actually argue that all the stuff in mainstream is alternative. What we do is normal.
Yeah, you could argue that. That could be another discussion again, Shane. Yeah.
If you go back 1,000 years, like, people would have relied on, or even not even 1,000 years, 100 years, 150 years ago, people would have relied more on that, nutrition, diet, all that sort of stuff, than going nature. Grounding is one of the most important things. It's one of the first things I say to clients. I say, take your shoes and socks off and ground yourself every morning. Because the best way to actually get out of your anxiety is to ground yourself in the present moment and become aware of what you need to ground yourself in. You know? And that's why it's so important to get out regardless of the weather and actually take your shoes and socks off and just ground yourself either in the grass, or I have the privilege of living 30 seconds on a beach. Ground myself all year round. Get out, ground yourself, and be free like that. You might say, oh, that's wishy-washy or something like that. Why is it? Like 150 years ago, we would not have looked at medication to help you with any of these things. Whereas we become a society, a world where we only care about medication for everything. I say to people when they go, oh, I get awful headaches, I say, well, I tell you what, you go and drink a pint of water, and 15, 20 minutes later, after you had your headache, it will be gone. Because what your headache is actually telling you is that you're dehydrated in your body. That's it. Yeah. Unless, of course, you're drinking, unless you drank 22 pints the night before. That's different. But actually, it's not different. Because you drank the 22
still
pints,
dehydrated.
So you're actually dehydrated in your body, so you actually need water. So 90% of the time, and I'm not excusing diseases and stuff like that and problems they have, but most normal people, if they have a headache, I guarantee you, if you drink a pint or two of water, no, bear in mind, I do understand if you take a paracetamol, it gets rid of the headache like that. Whereas I'm not talking about a quick fix here at all. I'm talking that this could take 10-15 minutes of sitting with the headache. And I also would argue that not only are you dehydrated, but some sort of feeling and emotion is coming up. You need to figure out why you have the headache. Rather than exactly taking a paracetamol is another medication just to get rid of the headache, whereas it's happening for a reason. You get a headache for a reason, you get a pain in your shoulder for a reason, you get a pain in your back for a reason, you're holding on, shoulders are holding on to stress and all that sort of stuff. And we could, Cameron, we could have another full conversation.
We could. But I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. Honestly, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
This will be a podcast broken into.
It will be parted. I think it will be. But I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you back at some point, and we can talk more. But just before you do go, Shane, is there something that you would like to say to anyone listening if they're struggling with their own mental health? Obviously, come and go see a therapist, but is there any words of advice that you live by with yourself, that you tell yourself when you're having hard times?
Well, I have a mantra that I use for myself all the time, and it would always be, everything is going to work out the way it's meant to work out for you today. And that's what I say to myself all the time. And the great thing about that mantra is that if things happen in my day that you might perceive as going wrong, that's okay. They're going wrong for a reason. And for me, I don't believe in the word of mistakes or regrets at things going wrong. They're all lessons for us to learn, to change. So a message to anybody that's out there with mental health: ground yourself, hydrate yourself, become aware of yourself. If you notice within yourself that you are not comfortable with you, become comfortable with you. Because you and you are with each other forever. If you live to your 80 or 90 years of age, you'll have spent 80 or 90 years with you, and you really need to be comfortable with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that could only come from Shane Murphy. I don't think anyone else could say it any better.
But that came from my heart.
Yeah, no, like you said, you come from here.
Folks, myself and Cameron have been talking for nearly 2 hours, and then it's going to be broken into 2, if not 3 podcasts. And there is no script in front of me here. It is just literally us talking. Cameron asked me before, what do we talk about? I picked 3 subjects. We did get into those 3 subjects. But in general, I said, let it flow. Let's just express, live. Maybe I'll do a podcast and I'll get Cameron on for my podcast and I'll learn again.
Yeah, very careful. You might not want to learn too much about me, but no, I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to come on, Shane. I've really appreciated having you on, Shane, to be honest. I've learned a lot myself. It's been really insightful.
So what a stormy afternoon, y'all in Ireland where you can't go outside. I mean, can't think of anything else to do, only talk to a like-minded person about life.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming on and giving your expertise to everyone listening.
You're welcome. No problem. Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you, Shane. And there we have it. Quick recap. Medication can be a temporary fix that suppresses emotions. Therapy should empower individuals to manage their mental health. Self-awareness and emotional processing are crucial for healing. grounding techniques can help individuals stay present. Accessible mental health care is a pressing need. Alternative therapies can complement traditional therapy. Community support plays a vital role in mental health. Living authentically and expressing oneself is essential for well-being. Thanks again to Shane, the anxiety expert, for coming on the show. He's been a great guest and, more importantly, a great guy. Appreciate you, Shane, coming on and sharing your knowledge with us all. I can't wait to have you back on at some point to discuss the other topics we didn't quite have time for on this episode. And if you'd like to hear more from Shane, you can follow him on his socials, Instagram at anxietyexpert_ and at TikTok at anxiety.expert. Make sure to follow the podcast so you'll be notified when the next episode drops. You can also find the podcast on social media at TOMU Podcast. It costs nothing and it genuinely helps the show grow. If you think this episode could help someone, please share it with them. The whole aim here is to help people feel a little less alone. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week, you wonderful people. And remember, be good to yourself. If you see me on the train, then give me a round of applause because I'm sitting there being mindful.